Good afternoon, everybody. This is From Where I Sit. I'm your host, Dr. C. Welcome back for another episode. This particular episode we are going to place up on YouTube. Obviously, we will also place this audio into Podbean. By the way, that's where our major platform is going to be from now on. But because this is a slideshow that we are presenting to you, we are going to place this into YouTube. You can find the complete audio in slideshow on YouTube, and you'll find the audio on Podbean. So, welcome again from where I sit, and I'm your host, Dr. C. And of course, we're going to get straight to it as usual because we don't want to waste any time, and we don't want to waste any of your effort to glean this information for you and your family. I mean, absolutely, this information is important to you. All right, we're going to go ahead and forward the slide. There we go. And of course, we're going to talk about today's news. And today's news is about education. We're going to talk about education today. And for those of you listeners who still have school-age children, this information that we're about to give you today is very, very important. Now, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week and a half ago, that the Trump administration was going to eliminate the Department of Education. He had made a big announcement of that, and he's going to eliminate the Department of Education through an executive order. Okay, and the Department of Education funds. And I think this is important for you to understand. What does the Department of Education actually do? It funds $1 of every $10 that is spent on public education, school districts around the country. So for every $10 that is spent on public education, one of those dollars comes from the federal government. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but give us some latitude here. We're going to explain what that $1 does. Local school districts are largely responsible for funding public education, public schools. Each state spends a good amount of their budget on public education. Some states spend less than others. Some states spend more than others, and we're going to talk about that later. Most red states are not providing the correct amount of funding for kids in their states. Yes, that is true. Most red states do not fully fund their education system. We're going to explain why that is happening. Which students are at risk with this reduced funding? Now, when we talk about reduced funding, we're talking about the funding that actually comes from the Department of Education. Which students are largely at risk with this reduced funding? And of course, the last point that we have up here, what is Project 2025's plan for education overall? And make no mistake about it, Project 2025's overall strategy for education in this country is clear. It's extremely clear. And you, your family, your children that rely on public education are going to be at risk. Make no mistake about it, you are going to be at risk. So, Trump's executive order is basically, he can't really do anything without Congress. He could do an executive order to eliminate the Department of Education, but it really has to go through Congress. However, and I think this is important to understand, the House is majority Republican and the Senate is majority Republican. And for the most part, they have, these Republicans in both the House and the Senate, have given up their power. They have given up their legislative power to Trump. In other words, they have rolled over whatever you say, Trump, we're going to do. Okay. And so this executive order is just the first step. But if everything keeps going the way it is, Congress can get rid of the Department of Education. And this beautiful young lady that you see up on this slide is my youngest daughter. She's graduating from high school this year. From this point on, I have no more kids in school, but I'm one of the lucky ones, right? By the way, these are her prom pictures. She went to prom that day. I have never been prouder as a father. This is a beautiful young woman with a great future ahead of her. She wants to be a marine biologist. And right now in this country, education, both public education and higher education, is under assault. Yes, they are under assault, right? And we need to do something about it. So the Department of Education funds $1 of 10 for all public school districts around the country, right? Fund schools, not billionaires. These kids understand what is happening. Fund schools, not billionaires. And with them cutting the Department of Education, what happens to that $1? All right, so here we are. We have a map of the particular revenues of every country in the State of the Union. The bright colors is where, not bright colors, but these dark blue colors and purple colors are where in these states where they're using a lot of spending for their public education. These light colors is where these states are hardly spending any money for public education. Now, there is a proviso here. Yes, these states where there's not a whole lot of spending going on, yes, like Montana and Idaho and Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, Maine, etc. There aren't a whole lot of populations in these particular states, but at the same time, these particular states aren't hardly spending any money on public education at all. Also, we want to point out that the state of Texas, which has this very dark, very dark purple color representing a lot of spending on education, that is misleading. The state of Texas is definitely falling short of fully funding their public education system. They're not spending the kind of money like California is, or like New York is. They're falling short. So the other thing that I would like to say about that is the population in Texas is growing, but the amount of money that they're spending on education is falling. So at the same time that their population is growing, their spending for education is falling. They are not doing what they need to be doing in terms of education for the citizens of their state. Okay, make no mistake about it, they are falling short. And if you look at a lot of these southern states, they are not spending a whole lot of money on education right at all. Louisiana, of course, Mississippi and Arkansas are in these southern states are the absolute worst. And then throw in there with Mississippi and Arkansas, throw in West Virginia as well. West Virginia doesn't spend a whole lot of money on education as well, which is the reason why most of the people that are living in these states are largely uneducated people. Also, I think it's important for you to understand that the kind of people who support Donald Trump are mostly and largely uneducated people coming from these states that hardly spend any money on education. I'll say that again. A lot of the people who support Donald Trump are largely uneducated and come from these states like Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, etc., come from these states where these states literally hardly spend any money on education for their citizens. Okay, just think about that for a moment. That is what is happening in these red states. Remember, Donald Trump says, "Oh, I love the uneducated." Well, there's a reason why. He loves the uneducated because they're not going to hold him to account. They're not going to do any research, and they're largely just going to do whatever he says. They're going to believe every lie he tells them. And of course, everything that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth is a lie, except for when he says he wants to conquer something. That's not a lie. He definitely wants to do that. Okay. So, yes, these people are being duped. I hate to say it, but they are. They're being duped. All right. Now, which students, and I think this particular slide is the most important slide, and then I'm going to talk about this a lot. Which students are at risk with this reduced funding? Do not forget, there are very large African American populations in a lot of these red states. And when these red states do not spend money on education, it is these African American communities with their public schools that are largely being unfunded by these red states. So students of color are at major risk if he gets rid of the Department of Education. The other group that is at major risk with the reduction and the removal of the the Department of Education, are those who are disabled, either physically disabled or mentally disabled. These kids' funding are all going to go away. And in fact, I would say that this particular group is probably more affected than students of color. And the reason why I say so is because these students, once that funding for their education goes away, they're not going to have anywhere to go, which means the parents of these students are largely going to have to look after their students at home. And if both parent works, who is going to take care of that child? Yes, that's a pregnant pause on purpose because I want you, the listener, the viewer of this broadcast, I want you to think about that. Who in the heck is going to take care of that special education student if the funding for those programs in public school is taken away? Who is going to take care of your special education child? I am going to go out on a limb and say that there is going to be no one to take care of your child. Not only is Donald Trump going after public education, he is also going after nonprofit organizations that take care of these marginalized students. He's going after them as well. In other words, basically says, we want these kids to get nothing. And if your child who is in special education that has cerebral palsy or something else, or is physically disabled in some way, I mean, you're going to be caught holding the bag. And if you were a voter who has a child that is in special education and you voted for Donald Trump, he basically stabbed you right in the back. And he does not care. DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, ran by none other, the other monster in chief, right? Donald Trump is monster in chief number two. Monster in chief number one is Elon Musk. Elon Musk, just in case you didn't understand and took a look at his family history, his grandfather is a Nazi. His grandfather was a Nazi. He believed in the Nazi ideals. He believed in apartheid, and he believed it should last forever. And make no mistake about it, Elon Musk is a Nazi as well. And by the way, the Nazis of old, right, in Germany believed that certain marginalized groups of human beings should be killed. Right? They believed that the disabled should be murdered in order for the rest of the normal people, the normal Aryans in Nazi Germany, could be able to thrive. They didn't want these disabled people mentally and physically poisoning the blood of their pure Aryan nation. Elon Musk is advocating the same thing right now. White supremacists are advocating the exact same thing right now. They eventually want people of color, people from the LGBTQ plus community, the disabled in this country, injured veterans that have lost limbs in this country. They want to get rid of all of them so that they can have a purified white Aryan state. As I've said before, the neo-white ethno state. They are coming after everybody who does not fit that profile. And they don't even care what race you are. They don't care if you're white, black, yellow, red, green, or purple. If you are mentally disabled or physically disabled, they want to get rid of you. And in doing so, let's take away their education first. Okay? That's what they're planning to do. So what is Project 2025's plan for education? And I have it up here in big, bold letters. They want to privatize all education. They not only want to privatize all education, they want it to be Christian, white, nationalist education. And if you do not fit that MO, you're not white and you're not Christian, you don't get education unless you provide it yourself, right? They want to privatize all of our education system, and they want a specific doctrine taught. It is the white Christian nationalists and their ideas and views of what that Christian is supposed to be. And make no mistake about it, it is a white supremacist point of view of what that Christian is going to be. Okay? I'm telling you the absolute truth. You don't even have to take my word for it. Guess what? The evidence is out there. It's on Project 2025, and it's evidence all over the internet, the World Wide Web, for you to find out on your own from credible sources that says this is exactly what they want to do. They want to privatize education under a white Christian nationalist doctrine where Black people don't matter, Latino people don't matter, the disabled don't matter, the students of color don't matter, Muslims don't matter, Buddhists don't matter, Hindus don't matter. If you practice any other religion other than Christianity, you don't matter. And eventually they are going to get rid of you by any means necessary. Just in case you haven't figured it out yet, the plan is to rid the planet of people of color with different religions. Just in case you don't know, our global population is made up of various races, which by the way is a social construct that people of European descent came up with, right, in order for them to consolidate power for themselves. But under their construct, white people only make up 7%, 7% of the global population. And their population is shrinking year over year, shrinking, whereas everybody else's populations are growing. People of color are growing all across the globe, and people of power, of color, are consolidating power for themselves. The election of Barack Obama was the catalyst for what is happening right now. It scared the crap out of white supremacists. And so they come up with Project 2025, and we've been trying to teach you what their plans are. This is their plan. By the way, it's in their Project 2025 in black and white. All you have to do is read it for yourself. Okay? This is their plan. So we're going to wrap up the show, but we're going to wrap up the show with this. It is time to stand up and fight. I've been saying this time and time again. Black folks, my brothers and sisters, you're not going to be able to sit on the sidelines forever. At some point, you're going to have to get up and get out there and start leading. Start leading. As the late, great Malcolm X said, revolution means giving up some blood, sweat, and tears. Blood, sweat, and tears. And make no mistake about it, the moment we are in right now demands revolution, and it demands blood, sweat, and tears from all of us, including you and me, my Black brothers and sisters from across the country and around the globe are going to have to stand up to this monster movement of evil men. Make no mistake about it, the Trump administration, the Trump regime is made up of evil white men. We have to meet this moment with our own blood, sweat, and tears to put this down. This is our lecture on education, what they are planning to do with it. I hope it was informing for you. If you have any questions, feel free to comment on the video that we're going to be putting up on YouTube. And yes, we will release the audio of this broadcast on Podbean as well. Thank you for joining us from where I sit. I'm your host, Dr. C, and we'll see you next time.